Hey there, Steve at Fox Can Farms. Today we're harvesting some potatoes from what I believe is called the lazy gardening method. Stay tuned and we'll show you how we do it. Okay, so I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about the lazy gardening method. I'm certainly not an expert on it. None of us here are. And I mentioned it in our onion set video where I was using a crowbar to plant onion sets. I kind of mentioned the lazy gardening method a little bit, but basically what you do is you take, what I've seen people do is they take like spent hay, so some hay that got wet, it's no longer any good for livestock, and you just pile it up. And then you take, say in our case we took potatoes, all you do is dig down in the hay and you put the potato in there and you just throw them in there. And you don't bury the potato in the dirt, nothing, you just throw it in there. In our case, we had a bunch of bedding from our, a little bit hard to see there, but we had a bunch of bedding that we use. We use wood chips for our chickens in the wintertime. And quite honestly, our kids had piled it at this point in the garden. I actually wanted them to pile it in another spot. And we were a little behind on getting our garden planted, and we had some potatoes left from last year. And so I said to I come across this lazy gardening method, a little potato there for breakfast. Lazy gardening method, and I said to my wife, I said, we've got that bedding out there, it hasn't composted. Typically you need to compost chicken manure before you use it, but the potatoes are there. What if we just throw them in there? So she threw, I don't know how many in here, and they grew like crazy. And in our other video you can see how good they looked, and they were like this high, and I think the bedding was probably this high. It's now started to deteriorate and everything. So you just throw it in there, and as far as weeds go, it's so easy to just pluck out the weeds, or you throw more of this on top is what you do. And then what you do is so that the potatoes are not in the ground. Here's the ground. I don't know if you can see that. The ground is under this, right? And we have a lot of clay here. We've been working on this soil now for years, and it's loosened up. This area here we haven't loosened up as much, but and then of course if you had regular potatoes the way you normally plant them, you'd have to dig it up and then get them out and wash them. I'll show you how easy it is and how easy they come out clean in just a second here. But this is all you do. Dig in. There's our potatoes. Look at that. And I could use a pitchfork or something like that, but I found that it's so much easier if I just dig in, pull this back, and kind of methodically work my way. Now you can see that some of these are still growing. You can see some new growth here, but some of these other ones here, they are at the point where they definitely need to come out. They're getting those little white spots on there. So yeah, we've been really happy with this. I think we might be doing more of this year or next year, because the potatoes just grew like crazy in here. We're going to compare the results of this with what we have going on in a different area of our garden where we planted them the normal way. So. So some of these here haven't had a lot of potatoes, but that's because we've been harvesting them throughout the summer here. And then, I'm not sure if it's showing up in the video, but we hit some other ones where we kind of hit the jackpot. It's really impressive how well these have grown here. This is really like this. And again, I'm not an expert. All I know is this really was lazy, because at first we had to do a little bit of weeding, but after a while the potatoes were growing and we really didn't have to worry about anything. I better get to work. Boss is going to get upset. Look at this, huh? There's something hanging out here. Come on over here and take a look at this. Come on over. Hey, come on now, don't be shy. So as I've been digging through here and harvesting these potatoes, once in a while I'll find a little hole. But look at this. I don't know what's in there, but I might have to go either run away if something pokes its head out or grab it and do something about it. So I'm not sure if you can see in the video these little containers, this little Ziploc, you know, containers they screw off. These are what you're wondering what those are. So what we do is I cut holes in the side. You can see that. And then what we do is, what I like is you can unscrew the top and I put beer in there. And what that'll do is attract slugs. And grasshoppers and other things too. But then you can put the top on, right? Just gently put that on there. And then when it rains, you don't lose everything and you don't have to freshen it up quite as much. But fortunately this year, we haven't had an issue with slugs. But this is another little trick for getting rid of slugs. Some people put little trays out and just pour beer in there. You know, beer's an old trick. It's not like it's a new thing for slugs, attracting slugs. But this is what we do. Seems to work out. I better get back to work before the boss gets upset at me. So some of you may have heard of straw bale gardening. We've done that for a number of years and had sort of varied success with that. Some of that may have been user error, some of it just that it maybe wasn't very successful here, but where we live. But this lazy gardening method reminds me a little bit of the straw bale method, except that you're not using straw, you're using, you know, wood with chicken manure in it, in our case. You could use hay, and again that'll compost and break down and be nutrients for the plant. So this to me is very similar to the straw bale gardening method. Maybe not as neat and tidy and perfect little rows and everything, but it's been very successful here. These are the potatoes we have. That's what we got out of that, using the lazy garden method. Again, these were just some leftover potatoes that we had in the cold storage room, and plunked them into that bedding with the chicken manure in it, and voila, this is what we have. So we haven't waited or anything, we just rinsed it off, and it's starting to rain on us here, so we're gonna have to get the camera put away and get moving here. Okay, there's the potatoes. Started raining on us, we decided we'd just bring the potatoes in the house, put them on some tables here and towels, and just let them dry here, and then we will get them put away. We don't want to leave them out in the light too long. So this area, the area that we grew these potatoes in, was about 7 feet by 15 feet roughly, And the area that you see in front of you here is about 5 feet wide and 6 feet long. And of course that excludes what's in that bowl there. There's a bunch in there. It's kind of filled up, and we're gonna probably cook those for dinner. So pretty happy with our results here with the lazy gardening, and hopefully you found it helpful, and maybe you want to think about whether you want to do a little bit of lazy gardening next year.